morning, my friends, and welcome to another weekend update. From very high above all the puerile and insipid forms of Wyoming mainstream media, this is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics studio in Sheridan, Wyoming. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to the program. Happy Saturday. It's that time of year again, my friends. Yes, the time we all look forward to when we find out exactly how much of our money the governor and the legislature want to spend. In the background, we hear the incessant drumbeat of the drive-by media telling us that government has to spend money on this investment or that investment, or we have to give money to this group or that group so that they can do this supposed social good. Nobody else can do these things, and so we have to take your tax dollars, your hard-earned tax dollars, and give it to a group that doesn't pay any taxes because, of course, they're registered as a 501c3 company, and then they will create the benefits to be given to you, the little people. And the irony is, most of the people saying all this stuff are Republicans, or at least they're registered that way. More likely than not, at least at one or two times in their lives, they've all paid homage to Ronald Reagan or Calvin Coolidge, or only the more daring of redcoats have talked about Barry Goldwater. Not that any of these people really have any idea who those folks actually were. My guess is, if you did a poll, if any of these people would actually give you an honest answer, you'd find that a solid 70% of them, at least in name only, are members of the Republican Party. For most of them, however, that's only for electoral purposes or to bolster their circulation. A good example of this is Leo Trotsky Wolfson, formerly of the Cow Pie and formerly of the Cody Enterprise. When he first moved back to Wyoming from Colorado in 2018, he was a registered Democrat. And then, in the very next election, in 2020, he had changed his voter registration to be a Republican. And you can't tell me for a second, after reading the voluminous drivel produced by Trotsky, that he did so because of his political beliefs, that he changed his overall political philosophy. No. He did it so that he could vote in the primary election and have his vote actually mean something, and second, so that his readers wouldn't know that he was a Democrat. The classic crossover voter. For most of these people in the media, and politics for that matter, being a Republican for them is not a matter of core beliefs. It's one of political expediency. Getting elected. And then, when they get there, we find out exactly who they are. Liberal redcoats. And it is never so clearly painted for us than during budget time. It's right now that we find out exactly who all of these people are. The way that we usually hear it is, it's the government's job to do this. Or this gem that I found in the Pravda on the Platte. This morning, and I quote, in his message to the legislature outlined in the first 9 pages of the document, Gordon wrote that he grounded his budget in core principles that support strong friendships, strong families, a strong economy, and strong communities. He also stated that the function of government is limited to providing the essentials that communities and residents cannot provide on their own. No, that is not the function of government. Nor has it ever been. But that's a common refrain that you hear from a lot of Wyoming politicians. It's what they use to justify taking lots of your money and spending it on things that you don't really want. To put it simply, the function and only function of government is to protect rights. Nowhere in the Wyoming or U.S. Constitution will you find that it's government's job to do the things that you can't do on your own. It's not in there, my friends, nor should it be. Let me just give you an example of what some of these people think. Here's a soundbite from Comrade Jerry Obermuller, who is no longer in the legislature, but this one's a classic.
The role of government is to step into those places where private solutions do not exist and create those conditions. And that's why we get together. We throw our individual money into a hat so we can do for each other what we can't do for ourselves. It's the nature of government, and we need to take control of that piece for ourselves.
This is how we get gigantic bloated budgets, and we end up spending money on things that government was never intended to be involved in. Coming in a later episode, probably on the live program, we're going to go through all of those so-called essential things that Governor Gordon included in his budget. Let me just give you a sneak peek into it. They're not essential, and they're not the role of government. According to James Madison in Federalist 51, quote, persons and property are the two great subjects on which governments are to act, and that the rights of persons and the rights of property are the objects for the protection of which government was instituted. We even said so in the Declaration of Independence, quote, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. John Locke, of whom a large percentage of the Constitution was based, knew very well that if you tell the government that their role is to take care of you, there will absolutely be no end to how many rights they will violate. Think about it. We're just taking care of you. That's why you have to use this light bulb instead of that one. Or sugar is bad for you, so you can't buy a big gulp. Now, I'm not saying that those ridiculous ideas originated in Wyoming. However, I am saying it is this line of thinking that leads to those government actions. We'll get back to Weekend Update in just a second. But first, an absolutely outrageous profit timeout. Today's edition of Weekend Update is brought to you by Morton Buildings. If you're in the market for any type of metal building, whether it's a garage or a barn or maybe something bigger, like a roping arena or a warehouse, the two guys you need to talk to are Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532, or you can check them out at their website, mortonbuildings.com. Are you one of those people that thought you were moving to Wyoming only to find out that you've set up shop in the only Democrat county in the entire state? That's bad news for you, but I do have a solution. You should call my friend Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She has her fingers on the pulse of the real estate market all across the state of Wyoming. She sold everything from small residential properties all the way up to big giant ranches. I promise you, she can unload that house of yours in the People's Republic and get you set up in what is actually Wyoming. All you got to do is give her a call. Her phone number is 307-699-3519. One more time, 307-699-3519. The first issue of The Outrider, the newsletter of Cowboy State Politics, went out on Thursday. And if you don't have a copy of it, that means that I don't have your email address. All you have to do is go to cowboystatepolitics.com, and the very first thing you'll see is a pop-up that says join our newsletter. Put your email address in there and hit submit, and I'll make sure that you get subscribed to The Outrider. And while you're there, make sure that you subscribe and follow the program. That way you can be notified every single time there's a brand new episode of Cowboy State Politics. And now, back to our program. Let me give you another one. So the Pravda and Jerry Obermuller say that the job of government is to do those things that individuals can't do on their own. Governor Gordon says that there are essentials that government just has to provide. Republicans generally tiptoe around this one, even if they believe in it, because if they don't, they're going to expose themselves for who exactly they really are. The Democrats, they don't have a problem with it. Let me show you where this line of thinking leads.
All this, this is class warfare, this is whatever. No, there is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody. You built a factory out there, good for you, but I want to be clear. You moved your goods to market on the roads the rest of us paid for.
Yep.
You hired workers the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire forces that the rest of us paid for. You didn't have to worry that marauding bands would come and seize everything at your factory and hire someone to protect against this because of the work the rest of us did. Now look, you built a factory and it turned into something terrific or a great idea. God bless. Keep a big hunk of it. But part of the underlying social contract is you take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid who comes along.
That was Pocahontas in 2011. I bet you thought that Barack Obama came up with that stupid idea all on his own.
If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we have that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Things that you couldn't do on your own. See, you didn't build those roads and bridges, and so you didn't really build your business at all. There's really no difference than what Barack Obama and Elizabeth Warren are saying than what the Pravda put in their paper on Thursday. The role of the government is really, really small. Let me give you another example of where this type of thinking leads. If it's the government's job to provide those things that individuals can't provide for themselves, then it also follows that it's the government's job to provide other services. And the way that they do that, in fact, in almost every Wyoming community, is they take your 1% sales tax dollars and give it to nonprofits. Just to be really, really clear, this practice is in no way constitutional. There's two pieces in the Wyoming Constitution that strictly prohibit it. The first one is in Article 3, Section 36, and it says, quote, "No appropriation shall be made for charitable, industrial, educational, or benevolent purposes to any person, corporation, or community not under the absolute control of the state, nor to any denominational or sectarian institution or association." Pretty clear. You can't give my money to any corporation unless the state absolutely 100% controls it. The other mention of stealing your tax money and giving it to people that they shouldn't is in Article 16, Section 6, and it says, quote, "Neither the state nor the county, city, township, town, school district, or any other political subdivision shall loan or give its credit or make donations to or in aid of any individual, association, or corporation except for necessary support for the poor." There are a ridiculous number of so-called nonprofits that Wyoming towns and counties give a tremendous amount of your money to. Here is the City of Sheridan Clerk on Sheridan Media on Thursday explaining exactly that they are unconstitutionally going to give your money away. Listen to this.
So those are local tax dollars that are collected that people have voted on the ability to allocate those funds to nonprofits or public benefit agencies that directly support either a municipal function or a community need that we might have.
No, Sheridan citizens did not vote on that. That's a bullcrap line that the Sheridan City Council and the Sheridan County Commissioners use to justify their unconstitutional actions. Here is exactly what Sheridan citizens voted on. From the original ballot question, the first time the general purpose excise tax was passed, and I quote, "Shall the Board of County Commissioners for Sheridan County, Wyoming, continue to impose an excise tax of 1% upon retail sales of tangible personal property, admissions, and services made within Sheridan County for the purposes of general revenue as set forth in Wyoming Statute 3815-203A, Romanet number 1. I didn't hear anything in there about giving it away to nonprofits. The Sheridan City Clerk is absolutely misleading you. But that wasn't all of it. Here's the rest of what she said.
What is the target audience? What is the service that they are offering? How do those services support the city goals, support our citizens in general? So really, what is it that you're offering and what is the benefit to the community because you're offering it? And trying to be as specific as possible while still kind of generalizing it to the general public.
I'm not exactly sure why Ashley Foster, the Sheridan City Clerk, is so concerned about generalizing unconstitutional budget requests for the general public, because they really don't care what we voted on anyway. Here's how Sheridan Media ended their little piece. Quote, "Those that are approved for GPET funds enter into formal service agreements with the city and will report on how the funds are being used throughout the year. You can apply for GPET funds online through the City of Sheridan website." It's these service agreements that Wyoming cities and towns use to try to get around the constitutional prohibitions on giving our money to private organizations. Instead of just giving our money away outright, you become a contractor to the city, as if that makes it any better. Yeah. You see, it starts out with the governor saying all of these extra things are essential, and it ends with cities and towns just straight up giving your cash out to people that aren't entitled to it. We have to get back to our government staying in its lane, only doing those things that it's supposed to do, their proper role. The only way to do that is to elect truly conservative people. And if they end up not acting conservatively, well, then we have to replace them. Well, that'll about do it for today's installment of Weekend Update. Have a good rest of your weekend, and we'll talk again on Monday. But for now, from the base of the Bighorns at the Cowboy State Politics Studio, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics.